be a single contraction relaxation cycle in the muscle, right? So we wanted to remind ourselves that the reason the muscle contracts, right, is because the somatic neuron, this is skeletal muscle, so we're just gonna stick with the somatic neuron. The action potential from the neuronal tissue, this is our neuronal action potential, right? And do we remember all this, right? So this is membrane potential of a neuron, yes? This is the what? Depolarization because what? Because why? Influx of sodium plus 30 sodium channel closed. And then what?
Potassium goes in.
Potassium leaving, what is this called? Repolarization. Leaving a little bit too much, what is this called? Hyperpolarization, return to normal with via sodium potassium pump, yeah. So the reason we actually have a contraction in the muscle fiber is because there was an action potential from the central nervous system, specifically via somatic neuron, right? And when the neurotransmitter is released, if we use in the skeleton muscle, that would be which neurotransmitter? Acetylcholine to what receptors? Nicotinic receptor. Very often people actually say nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, but yeah, the both is correct. The fancy writing is nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. That's what you will see in the scientific literature. But so nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. So when acetylcholine binds nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, by their structure, they're actually a very complex structure. We don't really go into that. Has like a multiple subunits, whatnot, but they are cations. So, and when acetylcholine in the skeletal muscle, two acetylcholine molecules bind the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, those cation channels open. And now we have a float of the sodium inside of the muscle fiber, which is a muscle cell, right? Calcium enters a little bit too, but to lesser degree. It's mostly sodium that creates the wave of depolarization in the muscle fiber, right? And that wave of depolarization, as we talked on Tuesday, opens additional channels, right? In the T-tubules and in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And that releases what ion? Calcium into sarcoplasm, yeah? Or sarcoplasm, right? And that binds the troponin, moves the tropomyosin, and allows actin bind myosin and create a twitch. So if you compare the, this is actually the sort of the contraction, the twitch, like contraction relaxation phase. This will be a period, there will be a period where the muscle will not accept another action potential. And I think the best way to review this, actually, hold on a second. What? Where did I put it? Oh, too far. Okay, fine. We'll just go with the order. So, contraction relaxation would be a single twitch. And in a single twitch, muscle relaxes completely. But as we know, for many different reasons, humans do like to some twitches. When the stimuli from the central nervous system, somatic neuron, comes very close, we can have something called summed twitch, or that does not allow muscle to relax completely. Sorry, I kind of really feel I should have finished that and then got this explanation. However, there is a situation where the summation, continuous stimulation from the somatic neuron leads to this, a very kind of short periods of the very light relaxation, but followed by contraction, relaxation, contraction, and we called it unfused tetanus, which is a very short relaxation between each stimuli, as opposed to a complete tetanus, which is the no relaxation period for a certain period of time. And then, of course, as you can see very often, like when you build in the muscles, right? You could physically put yourself in the situation of the complete tetanus, not allowing your muscles to relax, right? But if you, for example, holding something, but then you kind of allowing your muscles to relax a little bit, right? You are decreasing the fatigue. Fatigue, so because then the relaxation allows to muscles to rebuild ATP, it allows for more calcium to be, allows for more acetylcholine to bind receptors. But in a complete tenderness, usually that's where you will develop fatigue eventually, and you would kind of have to get yourself in a relaxation. And very often, central nervous system can actually override your desire to continue to hold the tension, because it's actually trying to protect muscle from damaging itself. So there will be situations, and we're actually going to do this next week in the lab, is where you're going to imitate unfused and a fused or complete tetanus, and you will see that you would only hold it to a certain period, and then the central nervous system would actually force you to relax the muscles to prevent the damage to the cells. Yes. I also wanted to kind of mention a few things about the tension. As we know, there is a lot of myosin heads, right? And so there is a lot of connection between the myosin and actin. So the tension is actually proportional to the number of cross breaches. The more cross breaches there are between the myosin and actin, the greater the tension that the muscle can sustain. Where's my picture on the motor units? I'm sorry, I'm just thinking that I missed. Where's the? Oh, maybe I'll just talk about that a little bit later. Sorry. I was revising, and I kind of think misplaced a couple of things. So I will talk about motor unit, but let me just mention it here so I don't forget accidentally. I do think I have a picture of the motor unit. So the motor unit, that terminology refers to a group of muscles that function together, and the somatic neuron that controls them. So a somatic neuron and all the muscle fibers that somatic neuron innervates will be a motor unit. There are some really big motor units. For example, one somatic neuron for a very large muscle, or very kind of nuanced, very detailed motor unit where the one motor unit, like in the eye movement, when the one somatic neuron would only innervate a few. So it's either the large group innervated by the same somatic neuron or a few. We do have a better pictures and we can look at that then. And so then also, in order for you to increase your contraction force, your central nervous system will try to activate more motor units, involve more muscle fibers. That way it can sustain tension much longer. And this is also happens on a central nervous system watch, is that it could actually turn off and turn on some motor units so that to decrease the fatigue. So not all muscles of all motor units of that particular, let's say, leg or arm or whatever you're doing, whichever muscle group you're working on, that they all not and sustaining maximum tension, so they can actually relax. So the central nervous system can regulate how many motor unit I actually used up. Okay. The brief relaxation to slow down fatigue is very important, right? As I mentioned, you can get more neurotransmitter produced. You can get more calcium to be recalled to sarcoplasmic reticulum. you can have more opportunity for the sodium and potassium to be moved back into ECF, so you can reestablish membrane potential, and then you can start depolarizing again. So this whole system, and we'll go through that, just kind of remind ourselves what exactly happens during the contraction. This allows for the muscle to reset and be able to accept a next action potential. So we know that calcium is super important for contraction, but we also know that the ATP is also super important, right? Without ATP, you cannot actually complete the power stroke. The movement of the myosin head is powered by ATP. So we have a small pool that we store, but it's really not enough for too long. The glycogen that is stored in skeletal muscles mostly and in the liver, every cell has a little bit of a glycogen, but the muscles and the skeletal muscles specifically and the liver will store the most. This would be a very quick access to glucose, because glycogen is really just thousands of molecules of glucose chained together, so very quick hydrolysis, and here you have a glucose to make ATP. But again, only lasts just a few seconds. Then there is actually another molecule that's stored in the muscle, is called phosphocreatinine. And you probably, if you've ever been in an experience where you in a clinical setting and there is a muscle damage, that sometimes you can actually find the phosphocreatinine in the blood. And so is myoglobin, by the way, also. So this actually will also give an opportunity to donate its phosphate group to ADP and make ATP. Anaerobic glycolysis does not make too many ATPs, only 2 molecules of ATP, if you guys recall, from the glucose. So anaerobic glycolysis, will allow, will give you a small amount of energy, as I said, per 1 molecule of glucose, 2 molecules of ATP, using anaerobic glycolysis. And as a byproduct, that would be a lactic acid. Byproducts, I mean, we're not really gonna go into glycolysis right now. Hopefully you remember that from bio, but so anaerobic, no oxygen required, 2 molecules of ATP for glucose, and the lactate is byproduct. And of course, this is the one that takes a little longer. Glycolysis, citric acid cycle, oxidative phosphorylation require oxygen. This will release the most amount of ATP. Now, if for some reason is the glycogen glycogen is not available, glucose may be low in the circulation, then fatty acid could also be used to create ATP, because fatty acids could be broken down to glycerol and lipids could be broken to fatty acid and the glycerin, and the fatty acid could very quickly be modified slightly and get into citric acid cycle, which is the second step of the cell respiration, and then proceed from there, and that could give you quite a lot of ATPs, of course, if glucose is not available. So all of these are the sources of the ATP that are available in the muscle or nearby to create the power stroke. So now this was, of course, is the part that you had to get to answer the question of the day. We'll go through that a little bit slower and make sure that everybody really can speak to all these 3 different muscle types comfortably. So we have slow twitch. The term is oxidative red muscle type 1. So a few things in that title alone. Oxidative refers to oxidative phosphorylation, which is the full cell respiration step. So remember the cell respiration, glycolysis, then citric acid cycle, then finally oxidative phosphorylation. So this happens in the cytoplasm. this, so most of this happen in mitochondria. Require oxygen here. Need oxygen here. Not here, not here. So from glycolysis, we can make 2 molecules of ATP, like I just showed you. And citric acid also give you 2 molecules of ATP. That's per 1 molecule of glucose. And this one anyway between 28 to 32 molecule of ATP per 1 molecule of glucose. So this is really where your major ATP production is happening. So the oxidative phosphorylation, that's that term here, refers to this slow twitch oxidative. Meaning they are running the cell respiration all over, but they can make a lot of ATP. So they red because of myoglobin. Where is the myoglobin? Here. Dark red, myoglobin carries the oxygen that is required here. So red muscle is slow twitch muscle. It has a lot of mitochondria. Because this happens in mitochondria, it can make a lot of ATP. They can withstand a lot of tension. This would be the muscles that could be less fatigued than any other type of muscle. As we go through this, I want to make sure that you guys understand. They are slow to develop tension, but they could sustain contraction the longest. So they are fatigue resistant. So posture, right now is a good example. Running, flying for ducks, obviously, right? And look, oxidative phosphorylation aerobic requires oxygen, therefore requires myoglobin, and of course for oxidative phosphorylation requires mitochondria. Lots of capillary density because oxygen needs to come from somewhere, right? So it's easier to go to the fast twitch glycolic, and then that would be in the middle. So the fast twitch glycolic, like in the chicken breast tissue, very quick to develop tension. They large in diameter, but look, they can sustain duration for very short time. So they actually easily fatigued. And they're easily fatigued because look, glycolytic, glycolysis. They do not require the oxygen. They use more anaerobic, no oxygen required way after making ATP, but you see they are easily to fatigue because first of all, they don't make that much oxygen. They don't have, of course, much capillary to supply that. Fewer mitochondria, fewer myoglobin molecules, but it all stems from the fact that they actually not doing oxidative phosphorylation. They're glycolytic. Quick, short, not very, not for a long time, right? Easily fatigued. Quick burst of energy. So the fast twitch oxidative glycolytic combines, and they are kind of in the middle of that. More fatigue resistant than these ones. You can train them to get into oxidative phosphorylation. So they're kind of truly in between, but they will still appear dark because of myoglobin and mitochondria and pretty good density of the capillaries. So today when we were doing the duck and the chicken, we were looking into oxidative and the glycolytic fibers. And here's a little bit more, we talked about, see how fast twitch, so much larger muscles. They will appear more pale. This is a stain slide, but even that, hopefully you can still see a little bit of a darker, this is more pinker, should be. This is a fast twitch, large, pale, easily fatigued. So the legs, our arms, this would actually be mostly a slow twitch, and Like the eye would be an example of the fast twitch in the humans. I don't remember what I put in the video there, but you can watch.
It was a piano playing.
Oh yeah. Wait, maybe I had a question after that. Hold on a second. I already forgot what I meant by that. So what is this? To continue, yeah. Jeez, should I just copy? From here. Oh, I probably need to get out of here on this mode. I just want to double check that I didn't have like
Then you gotta control click.
what am I doing wrong?
You gotta hit control.
Control where?
Like move your mouse over the link.
Uh-huh.
See control and then click. Or not.
Why is this so weird? Okay.
It's blinking at the bottom.
Yeah, it is blinking. I don't even know what's blinking. Let me see if I can just, I don't even know what that is. Oh, so this is a different browser, okay. Okay. I just want to remind myself I had a question. Now, what did I have? Oh, I remember that one. So, what do you think, guys? What kind of muscle group is being used here? But this guy.
Slow
Fast
twitch?
twitch.
I'm saying slow twitch.
What do you guys think?
Oh, you mean with this
slow
language?
twitch.
A slow twitch or fast twitch?
Slow.
Just by listening to the type of playing he was doing.
I think slow twitch.
Actually, slow twitch. She goes for only for like 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Slow.
I'd say
She's
slow
obviously
twitch.
not getting tired.
Okay, if you're in favor of slow twitch, raise your hand. Put it down. If you're in favor of fast twitch, raise your hand. Yeah, I think it's fast twitch, actually. I think it is because, first of all, very quick movements, and also, but he has a period of relaxations.
Oh, we didn't
Yeah, very quick movement. But he has relaxing, like every muscle that's used had a chance to relax. Okay. This is to make a point that, people do born genetically with different combination of the muscle, the short, fast and slow twitch fibers. They are genetically predetermined. Of course, you can change that somewhat through training, whatnot, but there is a predisposition already to certain type of activity. So, for example, the track and field versus long distance runner. So what do you guys think? What kind of muscle fiber will predominate in a long distance runner?
Slow twitch.
Definitely slow twitch. Low fatigue, ability to go long distances, sustain tension for a long period of time. And for track and field,
Fast twitch.
fast twitch. There is a definitely difference in genetic combination, and I've seen that all over the different reports. It's kind of fun. And people do, of course, try to change it and train it. But when you have a predisposition and you have a certain, that you're still going to be a better athlete in that particular sport. Okay, what is this? How do the skeletal muscle fiber in the leg? Oh, I guess we already said that. But who wants to answer that? Oprah? Which one are you saying? D. So wait, let me just let Marta. So less fatigable. Yes. Is there any more that works there? Mitochondria contact will be higher. Who said that?
I do.
Somewhere here? Did you?
No, I'm joking, I'm joking.
Stephanie, was it you? I heard it somewhere.
Somebody
Was
said
you,
it. No,
Cindy?
it wasn't me. Someone said it though.
Because it sounded so close that I was looking away. Anything else? Zaina? Zena says mostly slow oxidative, yeah, marathon runner, right? Anything else?
I put A.
Longer and thinner, yes, yes, they all work. All right, that's a motor unit. Why did I move it? All right. Sometimes my quick updates cost me the order. Okay, so remember how we were saying one motor neuron, right? One motor neuron. So this is, for example, the purple neuron, right? One purple neuron, and then whatever the purple colored muscle fibers that it's innervates, right? So one motor neuron and all the fibers that neuron innervates will be one motor unit. So then the larger motor units will have more fibers innervated by same neuron, right? And the smaller muscle units will have less fiber. But then you can be much more sort of precise and have a very fine control if you have a smaller motor unit. Does that make sense? Because then each neuron says like a little bit over here, a little bit over here, move to the right, move to the left, as opposed to like just the whole leg, no, not the whole leg, like the entire muscle group, large muscle group to contract. So seems straightforward. And also remember how we were saying like during the fatigue, the central nervous system, I mean, they join here 3 neurons, so obviously it's not 3, there is a significant number of neurons traveling through the nerves. This is the axons, right? The central nervous system could relax one motor unit and let that rest and then activate the other motor unit in the same muscle group and kind of create that little bit, the situation where there could be less fatigue. So when you guys do it next week, there will be all this different activity. So where you actually going to be mimicking that. You will be recruiting additional motor fibers as per instructions. And if you have more motor fibers, the motor units, then you can actually sustain a stronger force and longer. So also very interesting is the slow twitch oxidative fiber very often recruited first. For example, you guys are gonna be squeezing a different the instrumentation, so you're gonna use in your hands, of course, a lot. Slow twitch oxidative very often recruited first, and then if the instruction says continue to hold for a certain period of seconds, the fast twitch oxidative will be recruited, and then all of them gonna be working for for the maximum force. Like if the instruction tells you don't let go for another 30 seconds, you are gonna be in pain, wanting to let go. But all the 3 units will be actually working together. And I already mentioned that relaxing and engaging different motor units will help to avoid the fatigue. And the central nervous system actually regulates it by itself. So we spent less time on the smooth muscles, but we do need to understand the main differences between smooth muscles and the skeletal muscles. So of course they differ by location. In the wall of our vasculature, there's the intestinal tract, urinary tract, reproductive organs, ocular muscles. There are some skeletal, and there's actually some smooth muscles in that. Respiratory, some respiratory muscles are also smooth muscles, and in the bronchi, and they will be different in the pattern, so when we get to the picture, I'll show you to them. And they also, the way that the motor unit works is a little bit different than the skeletal muscles. So let's just review this. So first of all, there is a classification of smooth muscle by phasic and tonic. Very similar to receptors in terms of the what it means, right? Because the phasic, meaning that they could be relaxed, and they could be contracted. So they don't really sustain contraction for a long period of time. They usually relax, and for example, when the food is actually moving through esophagus, then you can actually see contraction just to move the foot down to the foot pipe. Or in intestine. So relaxation, contraction, relaxation, contraction. And the tonic muscles usually contracted at all the time, and then they relax periodically. Like for example, when you have a sphincters like an anal sphincter or the bladder sphincter, so it's usually contracted and then relaxes to let something pass. So it's a little bit different way to look at the muscles. They also, remember the varicosities that were a little bit different from the neuromuscular junctions? It's enlargements of the axon terminus that allows for this kind of, the neurotransmitter to kind of be dumped on a large number of muscle fiber at the same time. So when the varicosity moving between different cells like this, and the cells are not electrically, what's the word I'm looking for? Linked together. So the wave of depolarization cannot travel from one cell to another. So we call that multi-unit smooth muscle cells. So they, because in the one that's actually a single unit, what happens is that you can release the neurotransmitter somewhere near the unit, and when these cells depolarize, that actually the ions can move into the other cells. So then it's contract as a single unit as opposed to this one contracts each by itself, because they don't have the connection to the nearby cells. So multi-units smooth muscle cells versus single unit smooth muscle cells. So a little bit of a difference there as well. The gap junctions that you see here is the opening, like channels between two cells. So the ions can move freely from one cell to another and depolarize another cell. So you don't have to have a neurotransmitter directly acting on the cell. So because they're not really organized in sarcomeres, but they still have the myosin and actin fibers. It's just that, and they still have the power stroke with the myosin and actin, similarly to the skeletal muscle, but they're just not organized into the sarcomere. So let's look at smooth muscle contraction, and I'll point to you what you do need to know and what you don't really have yet to do. So what's a little bit different with the smooth muscle versus skeletal muscle is that in addition to calcium that comes from sarcoplasmic reticulum, smooth muscles also rely on the calcium from ECF.
Where?
ECF.
ECF.
Oh, easier.
ECF. So there is actually two sources of the cytoplasmic calcium. So from the sarcoplasmic reticulum and from the ECF. So the system that actually creates the power stroke is a little bit different. The calcium first binds to a molecule called calmodulin. And then there is another special protein called myosin light chain kinase, MLCK. The calmodulin with the calcium activates that molecule, and then the myosin light chain kinase donates the phosphate group to the myosin head. So a little bit of a different setup. The cross breach is quite similar, but calcium is only involved here to create this complex with calmodulin. And after that, it's phosphorylation of the myosin head, creation of the ATP, and then power stroke.
So calcium's only involved in activating the MLCK,
Correct.
and then after that it's.
Correct. And after that, it's
Okay.
MLCK phosphorylation. Obviously, to relax the muscle, you do have to remove calcium. That is similar to skeletal muscles, and we have a few ways to do it. We do have the ATP, active transport. We also have an exchanger for sodium and another active transport to the, sarcoplasmic reticulum. So when all this, removes to ECF or sarcoplasmic reticulum, then the calcium will unbind calmodulin by the law of mass. And then, of course, the phosphorylation of the myosin head will decrease and the muscle will relax. So removing of calcium from the cytoplasm into ECF and sarcoplasmic reticulum will unbind calcium from calmodulin and dephosphorylate or decrease phosphorylation of the myosin, and the muscle will be able to relax.
How does
Here's
it
a lot of
go back?
differences between skeleton and smooth muscle. They do operate in a very large range of lengths, because if you're talking about a GI, that's a very long, the range that the muscle has to operate on. They could run in many different directions, which is make the organs working much more efficiently. Like for example, stomach has a 3 different direction of the smooth muscles. 2 of them perpendicular to another one, the 3rd one diagonally. It actually contracts and relaxes much more slowly as compared to the skeletal muscles, and it does use less energy. And if you think about it, the smooth muscles use throughout the body on every minute basis, if you're resting, if you're sleeping. So, but they do less use energy, and that's kind of very evolutionary advantageous, of course. Whoops. So they don't fatigue very much. They can sustain contraction for a long period of time. They're not arranged in the sarcomeres. That would be something that you should clearly see. The muscles, skeletal muscles, could be activated by electrical connection with the nearby muscles, or they could be, of course, activated by chemical ligands, like various transmitters, neurotransmitters. Autonomic nervous system controls the smooth muscle, and of course, somatic division of the nervous system controls skeletal muscles. So very different action of control. And because of the varicosity, they don't have like a specific area like the skeletal muscles have that modified motor plate. The neurotransmitter can diffuse freely. They don't have like a specific area where it has to be diffused in order for C contraction. Another nuance that we talked about, that the calcium from extracellular fluid and sarcoplasmic reticulum plays the most important role. In skeletal muscle, calcium mostly comes from SR. There's a very small amount of SR amount of calcium coming from ECF, where in the smooth muscle, the extracellular calcium is actually quite a big chunk of the calcium. And then, of course, the cascade is quite different because it ends with phosphorylations of myosin, and the calmodulin, the troponin, tropomyosin are not really involved in the contraction of smooth muscle. In fact, there is even no troponin in the smooth muscle. So very different ways to do a power stroke. Skeletal muscle twitch is quick and short. And of course, smooth muscle can sustain the tension over a long time. They are very slow to contract and relax as compared to the skeletal muscle. Okay. So, what's next Tuesday? Exam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as always, a piece of paper for your